And they will need to change things. But when we've talked about Tottenham, we've reflected on the injuries that they've had. With Manchester United, there were injuries and illness within the squad. In the build-up to this game, as he said, it was a very disrupted preparation because of that. It was changing almost on a daily basis. Is that enough to explain the performance and the result today, do you think?
Well, there's no doubt that losing Ahmad meant that they lost all the balance on that right-hand side of the pitch, and we saw what happened against Newcastle when Xerxes played in one of those he played in the left pocket that day and he had to go out to that side to defend. The problem was today it meant that Bruno Fernandes was asked to put in, I mean, not that a player should be worried about putting in a big shift. They all have to put in a big shift, but when your best player's having to basically sort of trek out 50 yards to Jed Spence and then trek back in and leave Casemiro on his own. I didn't.
And then when he gets the ball, he's
tired. He's knackered. I didn't think that was right. I just didn't think that was right. I mean, look, I'm sure that he's got problems because he's got no players to call upon who can play on that side. But for me, your best player should be reserved for winning you the game, and I didn't think it helped that at all in the first half. And it allowed Tottenham an easy out all the time. So for me, that was an issue. But look, he's right in what he says. I mean, United had 2 or 3 big chances and didn't take it. The bigger concern is that the players aren't demonstrating in this system yet, in any of the 20 games that Ruben Amorim has had, apart from maybe Liverpool away, that there is an entertainment and a performance level to this system. So, look, they're going to have to be patient. The club, the players are going to have to be patient. Ruben Amorim's going to have to be patient. Everyone's going to have to be patient. But I would like to have seen the performance levels getting higher. That's the one thing under Erik ten Hag. You can't detach result from performance. You can win sometimes not playing badly, but it'll catch you out quite a lot if you continue to play at sort of an average level. And this is a very average level that United are performing at week in, week out. And that's why Crystal Palace are beating them amongst other clubs. And that's why Tottenham beat them today, because you're asking basically for players to take individual moments.
Let's look at the last 14 results. It's 14 points in that time in the Premier League. It's 12 defeats in their last 25. They haven't lost more games in their opening 25 games of a league season since 1973-74 when they were relegated. But these 14 that Ruben Amorim has taken charge of, the ones that he's responsible for, you talked about wanting to see improvement in performances under him. What have you seen that suggests that he's the right man to build Manchester United back?
The best thing about it so far has been actually his press conferences, and I think even today after the game, the way in which he communicates his vision and his idea, and that he wants to succeed at Manchester United and he feels he'll get it right. I don't think there's anything on the pitch that I've seen so far, either in results or performances, that tell me that we're watching a really good team. We're not. It's a really poor team, this United team.
But even if it's a poor team, there are ways in which to make even a poor team look better. Are they there?
He has died in a ditch in respect of when he said very early on, I'm not going to change my idea. So now he can't. And that's, I suppose, an issue in some ways, because I do think there were probably, with those 11 players he had out on the pitch there, a better way of probably getting them into a system which would have meant they'd have felt more comfortable. But he can't change that now because of what he said previously. He's really sort of stuck his flag in the ground, and sort of that's the way in which he's going to go down. But the performance levels are nowhere near good enough, and he'll know that. He had a very good team, by the way, at Sporting Lisbon. He had a fantastic team. So he knows what good looks like. He knows where he wants to take Manchester United to. The problem is, at this moment in time, it's just not happening at all.
Jamie, have you seen anything on the pitch that suggests that Amorim can do this job of rebuilding Manchester United?
No, not necessarily, but the reason why I would say that is because the players aren't good enough, Kelly. It's a really poor Manchester United team. If you go back through the history of the great ones and you compare this, they are miles off it. They need 7, 8 top players to change. So we all thought that Ten Hag hasn't got a clue, he just doesn't know what he's doing, everyone else is better than him. And I'm sure this manager probably thought that, because we've got big egos managers. He thought, I can come in there, I can change it. I know he didn't want to probably come in right now because he thought, I need a bit of time, because the pain is only going to get worse for a while. But I do believe, and it's going to be hard because we're going to have to keep saying the same things, they need a lot of time. They need to get rid of a lot of players. They need to bring in better players, because that isn't the nucleus of a squad that's going to be competing. When you look at the likes of Arsenal and Manchester City right now and Liverpool, they are miles ahead. They are not good enough. So it becomes very difficult to make a really good looking team out of that. And I think he wants to change the culture. I think obviously Marcus Rashford leaving players like that, they need to go. If they're not going to be the sort of guys that are going to train well, conduct themselves the right way, be good role models about the place, they need to go. And too often I think people at the club have ran that place and not let the manager have that control. But I think he feels like the first one that's going to get that control.
he's been strong there, but what Jamie says about the players not being good enough, if you just take Tottenham's best players, Porro, Udogie, Van de Ven, Romero, midfield of Basuma, Sarr, Maddison, Solanke, Kulusevski, Son, Johnson, Tell. How many Manchester United players would get into that Tottenham team if everybody was fit?
None.
I think Bruno. I think you'd want to have Bruno
Ahmed
in there. Maybe Ahmad, but to be honest
he needs
with you,
time.
You've got Kulusevski or Ahmad, and I'll be honest with you, I think I'll be going probably Kulusevski.
Yeah.
So my point is, every single Tottenham player, probably barring one, if they were all available, is better than every single Manchester United player. And that's not being emotional, it's not ranting anymore, we've gone past that now. It's just really sad that that's where Manchester United are currently at. They haven't got the players.
That's recruitment.
Is that the level that you thought those players were at, the Manchester United squad players were at, when they were signed?
No, it's what happens to them when they get here. And we've seen players actually the other way, when they've left, actually start to thrive again. So there is something, I talked about, Tottenham before, and that sort of cultural sort of, that platform. What's happening in the club at this moment in time? There's a lot of redundancies off the pitch. There is a lot of uncertainty. There is a lot of uncertainty on the pitch. They've had a manager be sacked this season already. It's not easy to perform in that environment. It's been the same for 10 years and it's still not changing at this moment in time. Hopefully in the next 2 or 3 years, Ruben Amorim is given the time to be able to build a successful team and squad. But every single Tottenham player that gets into their first 11 gets into Manchester United first, and probably apart from Bruno.
And the thing is, they've thrown fortunes at it. Fortunes. But if your recruitment is wrong, or your idea of a player, and you're bringing on 30-year-olds and signing them from the absolute fortunes from 4 or 5 year it's not sustainable and it's never going to work. So that's the other thing. So they have to change now. People like Jason Wilcox has been brought in. Jason knows the game inside out. Can't think of his name. The guy from Man City, who's obviously a fantastic CEO, Barada. Right. So there are people that they are trying, but this you can't. I looked at that team today and I'm thinking, looking at the subs, I actually felt sorry for him. It was really difficult to get a shape of a midfield. You could talk about systems all day long. He didn't have the personnel really that he would have liked at his disposal to get the result that he wanted.
If you're going to play two midfield, you need legs.
Absolutely.
I think the way the game's gone now, everything's data driven. So you talk about recruitment and, back in the days, eyes don't lie. You can see play, after 5 minutes, right, he's a player, that's what I want. But everything's data driven now, and I think sometimes you've got to be very careful. But I agree with what Gary said about just not good enough, the players. We can talk about systems but you talk like Bruno Fernandes today is probably the one really. You think Ahmed was missing today, but the shift that he put in today, going out and just vacating a massive space in the middle of the pitch, got Casemiro, sort of back end of his career, it's difficult and it's sort of like there's no structure. If that was a training session and it was 11v11 and you can blow the whistle at any stage, you'd blow the whistle, there'd be players all over the place. There was no structure, in possession or out of possession. It's
Casemiro becomes like a bit of he gets a lot of stick.
Yeah.
That in his defence, I played midfield. I felt sorry for him today in there because he looks, of course, because he's covering distances that are impossible for Rodri to cover. Rodri would have found it hard in that midfield today on his own, and he's the number one, as we say. But it was impossible for him. And if you haven't got the personnel, and he's got injuries right now, it becomes extremely difficult. Is he the right man? Like, you could keep sacking managers left, right, and centre because it has to. Like Gary says, there's stuff off the field they have to change. They have to change the personnel, but that will take time. You can't just have one window when you bring in 6, 7 players and expect it all to gel. It is going to take time. But probably the finances, Gary, with financial fair play, are they in a position to go and buy right now?
I don't think so, unless they get rid of players. I don't think they've got that 150, 200 million anymore. I think that sort of Anthony Casemiro window where 150, 200 million was spent was a really bad one, because that was a panic one that wasn't in. I don't think that was in the business plan at the end. It was when they lost to Brentford,
and I think my
Brighton.
understanding is that's part of the reason why there's this new round of layoffs coming up, is that it's all part of trying to balance those PSR books for Manchester United. So It may be that whole scale changing of the squad might be a little way, and there might yet be more pain for Manchester United, who find themselves in 15th place in the Premier League title.
Hello and welcome, United fans. Another tough day for the Reds as Ruben Amorim's Manchester United fell to a 1-0 defeat against Tottenham Hotspur. A frustrating night, and it raises big questions about the direction of the team under Amorim. After the match, Gary Neville, Jermaine Defoe and Jamie Redknapp had plenty to say about the performance, the squad and the challenges ahead. So, let's break it all down. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the latest United news. Your support means everything. Now let's get into it. There's no doubt United's preparation for this game was far from ideal. Injuries and illness disrupted the squad all week, with changes being made almost daily. That said, does it fully explain the performance? According to Gary Neville, one of the biggest issues on the night was the lack of balance on the right-hand side. Losing Amad Diallo forced Bruno Fernandes into a deeper, more defensive role, and that left Casemiro isolated in midfield. Neville believes that took away United's biggest attacking threat while making the team even more vulnerable defensively. And this is a recurring problem. Where is the structure? Where is the clear tactical identity? Amorim insists he won't change his philosophy, but so far, the performances haven't backed up his vision. The Reds created a few chances against Spurs, but lacked that cutting edge. And let's be honest, even with injuries, we should expect better football from Manchester United. Defoe and Redknapp didn't hold back either. Redknapp was blunt. The players just aren't good enough. He believes United are miles off the level of the top teams like City, Arsenal and Liverpool. 7 or 8 top players are needed, but as we know, financial fair play restrictions could make that difficult. The club has thrown fortunes at signings in recent years, but the recruitment has been all over the place. When you compare United's squad to Spurs, position for position, Neville even suggested that apart from Bruno, every Tottenham player would start for United. Let that sink in. So where does this leave United? Amorim has a massive job ahead. This isn't just about tactics. He needs to completely rebuild the squad and the culture at the club. There's talk of Marcus Rashford leaving, and many other players could follow. But one thing is clear, this process will take time. One transfer window won't fix everything. The big question now, will Amorim get the backing he needs? Will he be given the patience that Neville insists is necessary? And most importantly, can he prove on the pitch that he's the right man for the job? Because let's be real, right now, United don't look like a team that knows where it's going. Let me know in the comments. Do you believe in Amorim's project? Or are United heading towards another crisis? I'll be reading all your thoughts. That's it for today's update. Reds, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you stay up to date with all things Manchester United. We'll be back with more breaking news and analysis soon. Until next time, glory, glory, Man United.